Welcome in, everybody. This is Greg DuCharme Golf, and I am Greg DuCharme. Thank you to all of you who have subscribed already. This is now video number 3, and it's a great time of year to do it because it's the U.S. Open week. We're going to talk a lot about this golf course today. Shinnecock Hills, maybe the toughest golf course in the world. I know Oakmont has a lot to say about that, but this one is challenging. It is scary. We're going to look at the weather report today. We're going to look at this golf course, some of the historical notes about this golf course. And of course, we're going to get into some of the players that I like this week because there's a very specific brand that I'm looking for that I think you'll find interesting. So if you haven't already, make sure you like the video and subscribe if you like what you see because I'll be doing this every single week. And again, thank you to all of you who have subscribed already. It's been fun. I've really enjoyed doing it. So let's get right into it. Shinnecock Hills. Let's start with a little bit of history. So back in 1986, this was the first time they played Shinnecock Hills as a William Flynn design. It was originally designed back in the 1800s, 1891, and they played the 1896 U.S. Open and U.S. Amateur here at Shinnecock Hills. That was U.S. Open and U.S. Amateur number 2. But it was a long time until they came back to Shinnecock because William Flynn redesigned the golf course in 1930, and it was done in 1931. They bought a whole bunch of property, and he kind of redid this golf course, and he did it in a brilliant way. It's a links-style golf course because it's very exposed, and it is a very hilly piece of property, hence Shinnecock Hills. Very important to remember. But what he did, being a seaside course out in the Hamptons, is he created a number of triangles in the layout. Where a lot of links courses in England and in overseas across the pond, if you will, are kind of an out and in rotation, where you go out 9 holes, you come back 9 holes the other way, because you're right along the coast. Here, he created a number of triangles. There's 3 distinct triangles at 4, 5, and 6. At 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14 is a 4-hole stretch that creates a triangle. And you have another one at 14, 15, and 16. And what the triangle does is it exposes you to varying wind directions. So instead of playing 9 holes into the wind and 9 holes downwind, you're constantly dealing with crosswinds, into the wind, helping and hurting winds. The wind is changing throughout the round constantly. The wind for this week is a very important factor. Looking at it right now, Thursday looks to be, how else do I say this, extreme. And I'll be honest, I'm not even sure they're going to be able to play it. If you go back to 2004 and 2018 editions of U.S. Opens at Shinnecock, they lost the golf course in both of those occasions. And they lost it because it got windy and the greens were too fast and they couldn't stop the ball on the green, on a number of greens. In 2018, they actually had 4 greens that were cut at a different height so the ball would stay on them, and they still lost the golf course. I believe they're going to do everything they can to make sure that doesn't happen, especially when you look at this weather forecast for Thursday. Yes, you're seeing that right. They're expecting 50-mile-an-hour gusts in the afternoon. 50. I don't know if that's playable. I don't know if there's any world where that's playable. So that's a very big concern to me. But what I think will happen is they're going to keep water on the greens. The reports are right now that the greens are soft and very receptive. And there is a little rain in the forecast on Thursday morning as well. That should create some relatively scoreable conditions on Thursday morning in preparation for Thursday afternoon, which gets very difficult. And if they're able to play, those scores are going to balloon on Thursday afternoon. Then you have to take a look at what happens on Friday. And looking at this weather forecast for Friday, now I don't have the super forecast yet, so I can't get quite as detailed. But Friday looks to be very windy throughout the day. It doesn't look like there's a clear advantage in the morning or the afternoon. It looks like it's, like you see there, 15 to 18 mile an hour sustained, 20 to 27 mile an hour gusts kind of throughout the day. So there may be periods of lighter winds, but it's essentially going to be relentless throughout the week. And then on Saturday, you see the winds increase throughout the day, which is great because you'll have a leaderboard set, and the players in the morning will have perhaps slightly easier conditions, and then it gets more and more difficult throughout the day. There's also no clouds in the forecast. It's going to just get constantly tougher and tougher and tougher throughout the day. We'll see what happens Sunday, but this is really about the first 3 days. Are they able to finish Thursday's rounds? It will not be rain that stops them. It may be wind that stops them. My guess is the wind is going to hold this golf course. It's going to hold up play on Thursday at some point. I don't know how you keep the golf ball on the green when the gusts are 50 miles an hour. So hopefully that calms down a little bit. I'd like to see 40. I'd like to see something around there because I think it becomes playable, although challenging at that point. So let's look at some of the facts about Shinnecock Hills because I think this is important as well. It's a par 70, 7,440 yards. This is the same that it was in 2018. The fairways are on average 41 yards wide, which is 15 yards wider than it was in 2018. I'll get to that in a second. The greens are very large, over 8,000 square feet. But they play much smaller because there are wild undulations on them. And while the greens are huge, there's only so many holeable, pinnable locations on those greens. I mentioned the hills. You have 68 feet of elevation change between the highest and the lowest point on this property. So again, very difficult. Now, let's take a look at this because I think this is really interesting when you look back historically at the way that Shinnecock Hills is played. Back in 2018, it was the hardest golf course on the PGA Tour, 74.65. Remember, this is a par 70. That was the scoring average for 2018, hardest on tour. 2004 was also the hardest on tour, 74.07. It yielded the fewest birdies in both of those years, 1.94 birdies per round in 2018, 2.13 in 2004. Birdies are few and far between. When you look at the driving accuracy, this is the most interesting part of it. They really, the fairways were very narrow in 2004, and the field only hit 50% of them. That was the fourth hardest golf course to find the fairway on tour in 2004. And then in 2018, between these opens, Bill Corr and Ben Crenshaw came in and did a restoration, and they widened the fairways back to the way William Flynn envisioned. And that's good because it allows the ball to roll on the many slopes out here. It allows the fairways to play faster, and it allows you to actually hit the fairways in windy conditions. So there was over a 20% increase in fairways hit between 2004 and 2018. You'd think that would lead to a huge increase in greens of regulation, but it didn't. There was only a 3% increase in greens of regulation. So in 2004, they were the hardest greens to hit on tour, 51.53%. And in 2018, they were the second hardest greens to hit at 54.67. So an increase, but a small one. Also, by the way, not listed here, proximity to the hole in 2018 was the hardest on tour. The players averaged 44 feet. Scrambling, I think, is really interesting. Again, the hardest both years. But players were only able to get up and down 39.9% of the time around these greens at Shinnecock Hills. There's a little reprieve from the sand. You get the players were averaging about 43% in 2018. So about a 4% increase if you're in the bunker versus the runoff areas or the rough. Very challenging short game. So the long and short of it is very difficult to hit the ball on the green, and it's very difficult to hit it close, and it's very difficult to get up and down when you do miss. In fact, taking a look at the top 10 finishers in 2018, some of these numbers are just shocking. Of all the players in the top 10, Dustin Johnson led the field in strokes gained around the green, and he was he led the whole field in that category. He was 6th in scrambling, which was better than anybody else in the top 10. And he got up and down 12 out of 22 times. Just 12 out of 22. How about Patrick Reed? Patrick Reed finished one shot behind Dustin Johnson. He got up and down 9 out of 25 times. So all in all, now we'll look at one other thing here when it comes to the statistics from the top 10 players in this field, because there's a lot of variety. Brooks Koepka won. He was 55th in driving accuracy. He hit 36 of 56 fairways. Tommy Fleetwood, who finished second, was first in driving accuracy. He hit 48 of 56 fairways. Okay, so he hit 12 more fairways than Brooks Koepka, but he only hit one more green. He hit 50 greens. Brooks Koepka hit 49 greens, which was fourth for Brooks Koepka in the field, second for Tommy Fleetwood in the field. So everybody is going to have at least 20 scrambling opportunities. I think it's pretty safe to say everybody's going to have 20 scrambling opportunities during the course of this tournament, which is very challenging, very difficult. But because the scrambling's so hard, it's almost like you got to avoid double bogeys when you miss a green rather than saving par. Because you're going to make bogeys. And that's why I think birdie average is actually a pretty important statistic, perhaps more important than scoring average, which is what you might think. So I find all that to be very interesting, and it makes it very hard to predict, especially with the windy conditions. So now I want to get into some of these players that I really like, some of the brand, the style that it's going to take. So as I referenced, you can have success if you hit the fairways. You can have success if you miss the fairways. Everybody's going to miss the greens. I think short game will be important to an extent. I think putting will be important to an extent. You know, most of the guys in the top 10 in 2018 did putt pretty well. All of them, except for Justin Rose, who led in tee to green, they were all in the top 26 in strokes gained putting. So there's definitely going to be some critical putts that you have to make in order to perform well. But more than putting ability is the grit that it takes, the mental toughness that is required in a U.S. Open. It will be on full display here this week at Shinnecock Hills. Yes, because of the weather. Yes, because of the conditions. Yes, because of the pressure of a U.S. Open. It's going to be relentless. The rounds are going to be long, and you are going to have to deal with bogeys. You're going to have to deal with bad bounces. You're going to have to deal with bad breaks. And the players that can come back from that are the players that are going to have success here. I don't believe there's anybody tougher in the game of golf than Scottie Scheffler. He is the favorite this week, and I think he's going to perform well, even though I don't think this is a great setup for him. When you have scores that are close to even par, winning scores as they get closer to even par, it opens the field. Because in order to get the scores close to even par, you can't reward great shots the same way as you see when 10 under is the winning score, for instance. Great shots will get penalized sometimes. It's the only way to keep the scores around even, as good as these guys are. So you have to handle bad bounces. Scottie's shown frustration, yes, and you see that on TV, but he does not let it affect the next shot. He doesn't go on bogey runs, and he turns in great scores. I saw him at the Memorial last Friday play one of the worst rounds I've ever seen him play. He was slicing tee shots. He was missing greens, missing distances. He shanked a bunker shot. He played terrible golf, and he shot 72. On the same day, Ludwig Oberg shot 78. Jordan Spieth shot 79. I think there were 7 players that shot above 77. Scottie Scheffler played terrible and shot 72. That's why I like him this week. He also, by the way, think about some of these statistical areas that I find to be important. He leads the tour in strokes gained total, all-around play. Leads the tour in scoring average, strokes gained tee to green, birdie average, and bogey avoidance. In a down year, he leads the tour in all those categories, which I think are crucial here at the U.S. Open. He's also second in scrambling on tour. He's 19th in putting. In strokes gained putting, 19th on tour. Pretty good for Scottie Scheffler. And he's 25th in 3-putt avoidance. His game's good enough to win. The next guy I want to talk about is Rory McIlroy. Rory McIlroy has made a big change in the way he approaches U.S. Opens. It started here at Shinnecock Hills in 2018 when he missed the cut. It was his third straight missed cut in a U.S. Open. But he turned around. He reevaluated the way he handles really challenging golf courses. He got a little more strategic, a little more patient, and all of a sudden he reeled off 6 straight top tens in U.S. Opens. 2 of them were seconds. 2 of them he should have won and didn't. And I'm ruling out last year because he had just completed the career Grand Slam and he didn't finish top 10 at Oakmont. I think he finished tied 12th. But all in all, his record at the U.S. Open has done a complete 180. And you're going to see that on display again this week. Both he and Scotty are teeing off on Thursday morning. Right now, that looks like it's an advantage. We'll see. This weather can change dramatically. I think that's an advantage right now. Can't confirm yet. But that being said, Rory is much tougher than he used to be. He used to be a pretty player. And when things were going well, nobody could beat him. When things didn't go well, he beat himself. And I don't think he does that anymore. So I'm very encouraged by what I'm seeing out of Rory McIlroy, and I think he's going to play great. Obviously, they're the 2 favorites. May not come as a surprise to you that I like them. Next, I like Matt Fitzpatrick. Matt Fitzpatrick's very interesting to me. There was a trends piece that I did recently. You may have seen it on Twitter. I also did a video of it right here on YouTube, which I recommend you check out if you haven't seen it already. This was a very cool trend, I thought anyway, between Matt Fitzpatrick, Brooks Koepka, and Retief Goosen. Brooks Koepka and Retief Goosen both had top 6. They had 6 top 10 finishes in in major championships before their win. So I'll say that one more time because I'm stumbling over my words. Both Koepka and Retief Goosen had 6 top 10s in major championships entering the week they played Shinnecock. They both had 1 major. Both of them, it was a U.S. Open. Koepka won the 2017 U.S. Open the year before he won at Shinnecock, and Retief Goosen won the 2001 U.S. Open at Southern Hills a couple years before he won at Shinnecock. And they both had 6 top 10s in majors. Koepka had 2 wins on the PGA Tour, and Retief Goosen had 3. Matt Fitzpatrick has 1 major. It's a U.S. Open in 2022. He also has 6 top 10s in major championships, just like Koepka and Goosen. He has 5 wins on the PGA Tour. 4, however, if you call it just individual wins, because one of his tour wins is a team event. So 2, 3, 4, you could go that way. Maybe you go 2 plus 3 equals 5. I think there's a really cool, interesting trend there with Fitzy and Goosen and Koepka. But he also checks the statistical boxes beyond just some random trend. He's 3rd on tour in strokes gained total. He's 2nd on tour behind only Scheffler, tee to green. He's 21st in birdie average, which is pretty good. He's 3rd in bogey avoidance, which is excellent. He's 10th in driving accuracy. I think it's a really important area. He hits the ball low, which is going to help him in the wind, and he's going to get a lot of rolls. So any distance he lacks, I think, will be made up for with firm fairways this week. He's also 4th in greens of regulation. He's having the best iron play of his career. He's 4th in strokes gained approach as well. He's 6th around the green, and he's 18th in scrambling. A lot of good things for Matt Fitzpatrick. Next guy I want to talk about is Chris Gotterup, who I believe is as tough as nails, as tough as they come, and the statistics you can just put aside with Chris Gotterup. He's proven that he can handle link-style golf. He proved it last year by winning the Scottish Open. He also came in 3rd at the Open Championship. And then when you get to Waialae, you had windy conditions there at the Sony Open, and he won there as well. Chris Gotterup has that dog in him, and I think that's going to go a long way this week at Shinnecock. He's much more creative than I gave him credit for. You're going to see him abbreviating his follow-throughs. You're going to see him creating shots off the tee. You'll see him... You'll see him creating shots around the greens. You'll probably see him chipping in a couple of times. I think Chris Gotterup has the stuff to win here in a U.S. Open at Shinnecock. He also kind of reminds me of a tough guy like Brooks Koepka. So I love Chris Gotterup. I love Russell Henley too. Russell Henley has back-to-back top tens in U.S. Opens and back-to-back top tens in Open Championships. So however you want to look at Shinnecock Hills and the test that it asks, I think Russell Henley meets those challenges. He leads the tour in driving accuracy, which, with really wide fairways, you may not think that's important, but his ball flight is on the lower side, and you're going to see his golf ball roll in a lot in the fairway. That's why accuracy is important for him, because he doesn't carry it a long way. He needs to land it in the fairway to get the roll, and he's going to do that this week. He also leads the tour in scrambling. It's another sign of his toughness. He's second in bogey avoidance on the PGA Tour, and 11th in scoring average overall, which gives you an idea that he can make birdies as well. So I love what Russell Henley offers, especially for a very difficult golf course like this one. Now we take a look at some of the other players that I have in mind. I got four more for you, which I'll go through quickly. Patrick Reed. Patrick Reed has not played since the PGA. Before that, he didn't play since the Masters. And before that, he didn't play for like 3 or 4 weeks ahead of the Masters. But he finished 12th at the Masters and 10th at Aronimink, and he showed that he can prepare without competing for these big-time championships. He also had a great finish here in 2018. He finished solo 4th at 4 over par. Like I mentioned earlier, his scrambling was weak for Patrick Reed. He was 9 of 25 scrambling, but he got a lot of his work done with his approach play, where for the week he was 9th. He was 6th in greens and regulation. Ultimately, Patrick Reed is the kind of player who can figure out how to put the ball in the hole, whether he's in the rough, whether he's hitting it close, whether he's scrambling around the greens. He has the stuff to handle this kind of test, and he has the toughness. I also believe the fact that he hasn't played is going to keep him fresh. And this is going to be an exhausting week. And a fresh and focused Patrick Reed is a good thing in my book. Next, we got to go to Wyndham Clark. I've been very impressed with Wyndham Clark and what he's done with his putting specifically. That has come a long way so far this year. So I'm going to go through some of these statistics for Wyndham with you, but the results speak for themselves because he won the Byron Nelson, shot 30 under, very different test than you're going to see this week. But he came in 3rd at the Memorial, very difficult test. And then in Canada last week, he had a chance to win on Sunday, but finished tied 11th. Listen to these stats with the putter. At the RBC Heritage, he gained 5.2 strokes putting. Then at Aronimink, he gained about a shot, just under a shot putting. He gained 11 and a half strokes, 12 and a half strokes putting at Craig Ranch when he won. Another shot and a half at Muirfield Village for the Memorial, and 3 strokes putting up in Canada at TPC Toronto. You combine that with the best iron play season of his career, and I think these things really start to match up for Wyndham Clark. But here's the other thing. If you worry about his driving accuracy, as I do, I believe this golf course with no trees sets up similar to the way LACC did with wider fairways. There's going to be room for Wyndham to curve his ball into play like he loves to do. He loves to work that kind of power fade, and I think he's going to have the space to play that shot at Shinnecock Hills. So I really like his chances. I like Joaquin Niemann this week as well. Joaquin Niemann has he played in the PGA Championship. He finished tied 18th. He's played very well on LIV, and he's shown an ability wherever he's played, a really strong tee to green ability, which is what he leans on. He routinely picks up 3, 4, 5 strokes on approach on LIV, and 3, 4, 5 strokes approaching off the tee when he's playing on LIV as well. And he's done that in majors for the most part too. So I think Joaquin Niemann's the kind of player whose ball striking travels. And that's going to go a long way this week at Shinnecock Hills. The other thing I like about Joaquin Niemann is his ability to flight the ball. In these windy conditions, he can take it low, he can hit it high. He likes to kind of move the ball around. Lower shots will be more advantageous this week because of the wind, but I think he's equipped to use them. One more player that I want to share with you my thoughts on, and that is Ryan Gerard, who I consider to be just an absolute dog and an absolute gamer. He does not have a pretty golf swing, and he does not care. He knows it. He plays very closed face, and he likes to hit the ball low as a result. And that's going to go a long way this week. He's a very accurate driver of the golf ball who hits a ton of greens and fills up the approach game categories when you look at the advanced metrics. And he does the same with the putter. So he's very good putter, very good approach player. A lot more value on him. So, the short game is something I may worry about. But this is going to be a very different short game test. So I'm thinking that Ryan Gerard's going to figure out a way to get his ball into the hole like he did at the Memorial when he lost in a playoff to JT Poston. I think the value on Ryan Gerard is right, and this is a great opportunity for him to step up and play some great golf. So that's my thoughts on the U.S. Open this week at Shinnecock Hills. I'm very interested in seeing what happens with the weather. Again, they lost this golf course in 2004 and in 2018, and I don't think they're going to do it again. But it will be very easy for that to happen because of the weather conditions. Again, going back to Thursday, I'm seeing 50-mile-an-hour gusts on some of the reports. All the reports have gusts above 35 throughout the entirety of the day. What does that mean? I cannot wait to see it. My prediction is that play is stopped down for wind at some point on Thursday. And I don't know how you can make the green slow enough to handle 50-mile-an-hour gusts. So I think there's going to be a stop down at some point. So I would be careful if you're playing DFS, trying to make lineups. I'd be careful going heavy AM, PM wave lineup. I'd be very cautious with that because it can change in a hurry. One stop down changes the entire forecast. So look for players that are tough. Look for players who have played well in U.S. Opens and Open Championships before. Guys with strong short games, guys that hit a lot of greens. You're looking for overall, all-around players this week at Shinnecock Hills for the U.S. Open because that's the way that's the way the U.S. Open plans their events. They want to test every area of your game, and the most important test this week will be the mentality. Hey, I'm Greg DuCharme. Thanks so much for watching us here on Greg DuCharme Golf. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Turn on the notifications. I'll be posting a video or two every week, getting you ready for PGA Tour events and sharing content that I find interesting that I've researched regarding the game of golf. So make sure you hit that subscribe. For those of you that already have, I really appreciate it. It means a lot to me as we're just getting going. Here, this is video number 3. So I appreciate you watching. Enjoy the U.S. Open, and I'm sure at some point here soon we'll talk much more about it. Again, I'm Greg DuCharme. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.